gentle marketers. Welcome to the Gentle Business Revolution podcast, the show where we usually talk about marketing your business by disrupting the current marketing paradigm. I'm Sara Santa Croce. I'm the host here. And by now, you've probably noticed that I'm posting these raw episodes in between my regular episodes that are still being posted on Fridays. But I decided to record some raw episodes in response to the current situation. These special episodes are not posted on my website. I'm not sharing them on social media, so I recommend you subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app so you get notified about future extra episodes. I'm going to tell you kind of what else I have planned at the end of this one. Today, I'm bringing you my friend Laurel O'Sullivan, who's my new reference for astrology. I like Laurel's down-to-earth way of explaining things, just enough woo-woo, but not too much, so a layperson like myself doesn't understand it. So I've been following astrology for a while. My mom was into it when I was still a teenager, but it wasn't really interesting to me back then. I thought it was too woo-woo, and I really started to pay more attention to it probably about 3 to 4 years ago. By no means am I an expert in astrology, not at all. I'm really a follower, and so that's why I like Laurel in the way she explains it, because I can understand it, where some astrologers, they go into too much details and I have no idea what they're talking about. So again, that's why I'm bringing you Laurel, because I think you'll appreciate her way of making things, relating to us down here, living beings, and not just talking about the stars and these concepts that sometimes are a bit out of reach. So we talk about the big scheme of things. She was talking for months now about this year being a very intense year in terms of astrology. So we talk about that. And then more specifically also about this week even. So I hope you find this conversation inspiring. Here is Laurel and I. Hi, Laurel. How are you today?
Hi, Sara. I'm good. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. It's nice to connect also offline before we hit the record button and just kind of exchange how we feel and how we're dealing with this strange situation right now.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you have an introverted family as well, so it doesn't really change much from that perspective, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a new normal, but we're doing relatively okay here.
Okay, great. So I brought you on because you're kind of my new reference for astrology. What I like about you is this down to earth kind of attitude towards astrology. We know each other from another group, and I always kind of was interested in astrology, but at the same time, I was like, well, how much do I really need to know? And of course, you know about the horoscope kind of page in the newspaper, and you're like, oh, that can't be real and that can't be serious. And at the same time, very intrigued because my mom also was into astrology, and every now and then she shared some things with me. So yeah, tell us maybe to start kind of how you got into astrology and how you use that today in your work with women.
Sure. I like to tell people that I didn't go looking for astrology. It found me about 3.5 years ago. I literally I was at a crossroads in my career. I was a lawyer, and then I had moved into doing some consulting work, and was dabbling in coaching, and I was trying to decide whether I wanted to go into coaching full time. And I just saw this advertisement for a lecture. It was the Great American Eclipse, and I was intrigued, and from there I just got totally sucked in. And the reason that I stayed with astrology was because it was the first time, the more that I studied my own chart, that I saw my story, that I understood my story of who I was and why I was here. and it was really profound. And that is how I got involved with astrology.
And so, how do you use that today with the work that you do with women? You're the women's coach. So, how does that, you know, probably you're doing a reading with women, and then you help or use that information from their chart to help them build the life they want, or how does that go together? Basically, the life coaching and the astrology.
Yeah, so it's sort of like stages or layers. And the first layer, I like to call it a consultation, because I really, reading to me is a very sort of passive term, and I really want to, and my clients want to engage. They want to understand. So the first layer is sort of awareness, and yeah, we have usually 1 or 2 sessions. It just depends, where we are going through their birth chart. And the birth chart is, as I tell people, we are energy. And so I do look at astrology very pragmatically. We are energy, and when we are born, our birth chart shows the energetic imprint upon us. And so that's really what it is. And if we can understand that, it's like our own blueprint for navigating life. And so, there's so much to it that you honestly could study your birth chart for your whole life and probably continue to learn more. But within an hour or two, we're able to cover the basics in terms of, what is your, purpose here. A lot of people come to me around career, relationships, the typical kind of midlife transitions is a lot of what I work on my clients with. And so we first get a basic understanding of kind of who they are, who they see themselves to be. And then we can go into more of the, some people want to know what's going to happen down the road. And so we can look at those things as well.
Hmm. Obviously, on this podcast, we can't go into, individual birth charts, but I wanted to bring you on to talk about the big scheme of things, kind of like what astrology showed us already, end of last year, what was coming for 2020, even before this pandemic was a thing. So can you talk to us a little bit about what was in the plans for 2020
Mhm.
and why it was such a big year as from the astrology part side of things?
Yeah, so 2020 was a huge year, sort of astrologically, because there's 3 major planetary cycles that are coming to an end and new ones beginning. So whenever you have 3 major cycles of anything, that's a big deal. And so I don't know, there may have been one astrologer that I know of who many years ago was sort of predicting this, because the pandemic, that is, if you look back to, so the first cycle that I can just talk about in what it means at a very high level. On January 12th, we had what's called the grand conjunction of Saturn and Pluto coming together. And this was a huge wake up call, for everybody. The invitation, if you will, it's more than an invitation. The demand for all of us is to redefine our relationship with our power and the structures in our life, that help us access our power. And I also like to put it another way. In the totality of this year, we're being asked to reparent ourselves, because I do think, despite all of the tragedy and hardship that people are going through right now, that the ultimate lesson of all of this, is one that a lot of your listeners probably already, feel and use to navigate their life, which is that love is really the essence of everything, and that, we're being called to find that place within ourselves, of self-love. And from
Mm.
there, that is where we can, begin to rebuild our relationship to power going forward, so that we can have a different, both at a micro and a macro level, we can have a different world.
Right. So is that one of the systems, the conjunction?
Yeah, so Saturn and Pluto is the first cycle, and that happens, they come together every 35 years. So the other reassuring thing about astrology is that we can look at the cycles and we can understand that what we're going through, others have gone through something similar before. So if we go back 35 years to the 37 years actually to the last time Saturn and Pluto came together, we had the economic recession of the early of 1982. If we go back before that, we had the Cold War and the invention of the atomic bomb. If we go back before that, we had World War One. And we actually also had in 1918, when Saturn and Pluto came together, we had the outbreak of the Spanish flu.
Wow.
So some people have said or wondered whether something similar might happen, but I don't think anybody definitively knew, obviously, that we were going to be facing um, what we're facing today.
That's so interesting. And how, in your opinion, does what we're living through now have to do with this shift of power or the different systems that are in place?
Yeah, I mean, I so I think it has everything to do with it, because there's an expression in astrology, as above so below. And we don't just study the planets because it's interesting or fun. It's because you know hundreds of thousands of years ago, early societies discovered there was something to the interaction between the energy up there and what's happening down here. And so we've been slowly having this buildup of tension and crisis and dismantling of, if you look at the last 2.5 years, which coincides with the cycle of Saturn. It takes Saturn 2.5 years to move through one sign. And so currently it is moving through the sign of Capricorn. So Capricorn is government and systems. And so especially in the US where I'm at, we've just had, since the 2016 election, tumult and chaos and dissension growing and mounting, and fear and anxiety over, the divisions around the leadership in our country. And it's also playing out around the world. You can look to, Hong Kong, you can look to the Middle East. I mean, there's lots of places where we're seeing that the power structures in place are no longer serving the people. And so actually right now, as you and I are speaking on March 22nd, what happened is Saturn briefly moved out of the sign of Capricorn and moved into the sign of Aquarius. And Aquarius is about the collective. It's about humanity. It's about community. And so this is giving us, it's going to stay there till July 2nd. So this is giving us a preview, because in December, Saturn will move into Aquarius until 2023. So that's the cycle of Saturn. It moves spends 2.5 years in one sign. So we are getting a preview now of what things will be like in the next 2.5 years. And I think there's both good and bad. I mean, I think that, again, we may have some restrictions imposed. Saturn is restrictions. Again, the sign of Aquarius is the collective. So we may have to go through this dance or this balancing act of figuring out what restrictions we are willing to accept as a society and which ones we aren't. We may have to understand that we have to face more restrictions to help to course correct where we've come from. And through that process of back and forth, I think we're going to understand, and we are understanding, how much more interconnected we are. Even though one could argue that technology has made us more isolated, I think what we're all also experiencing is how we can use technology to connect ourselves.
That's so interesting. Yeah. And in a way, also, again, on a global level, so on an individual level, we're being asked to, social distance, and that feels almost like we're, kind of being separated. But at the same time, it actually asks us just to be more creative to connect. And you hear from Italy, people singing together on their balconies. I just heard that Elton John and some other stars were hosting these sing-alongs from their homes. So we're getting actually more creative to stay connected. And on a global level, it definitely also feels like right now, everybody is kind of pointing fingers and just looking for their own country. And so I'm hoping that this is also a system that will have to change, and that we have to actually or that we walk away from this learning that we're all on the same planet, and it doesn't matter whether we are closing our borders or not. We are now all dealing with this. And so I love this idea of moving into Aquarius
Mhm.
starting next year, or maybe for a few months, but then definitely next year, because I think that is the main message that we're really supposed to be learning here, is that it's all about the collective. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. The collective flattened, Aquarius is decentralized systems,
Right.
decentralized leadership. So it's about all of us doing our part and dismantling, in a sense, the patriarchy and the hierarchy that has come to characterize our world since 1982, and trickle down economics and the growing divides between the haves and have nots. So, you know, it is a really difficult time, but if we can shift our perspective to start to see there's an opportunity here, and I think that can help a lot of us to get through it with that hope.
Also, what you just mentioned, kind of flattening of the hierarchy, and the fact that this virus affects everyone, no matter what level,
Yeah.
no matter what kind of income. It really affects everyone, and we're all asked to kind of maybe look at what we have, and kind of lower maybe our standards, and say, I can actually do with less. Let me focus on what is really essential. And that, of course, hits always the ones that are at the bottom of the hierarchy. Of course, that hits them harder than others who are at the top. But even the people at the very top, uh, those are the ones who are now suffering from, their investments are in the stock market, and it had a huge impact on that. So in a way, you can't get away from it.
Right.
Mm.
Absolutely. It's the, I don't want to say it's the great equalizer, but yeah, they're.
Yeah, it somehow is.
Mhm.
I heard you say that the whole year is kind of full of these astrological events, but for this episode, I want to focus on this week. So we're recording this on March 30th. I'm gonna release it tomorrow, and you actually said that March 31st, I think there's a big event as well. What's going on March 31st?
Yeah, so on March 31st, well, there's two events, March 31st and April 4th. We'll start with March 31st, which is Mars and Saturn coming together. Um, so Mars is our will and our drive to get things done, and Saturn is our is discipline. And this is happening in the sign of Aquarius. Saturn just moved there. Mars is going to join it on March 31st. And so this, for all of us, again, a lot of what I'm saying is some of the details of it depend on your own individual chart, how you might experience in your life. But as a general rule, this is asking us for like focused discipline and effort, and it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but essentially we're being asked for these 3 months. Where is the what is it that I kind of need to be disciplined and focused about in my life, to accomplish this sort of larger theme that we're talking about this year around our relationship to power and authority. But this time it's about in the sign of Aquarius, not Capricorn. So it's about, again, sort of our obligations um, to the collective. And it depends on where Aquarius is in your chart for the specifics of how that plays out. But in general, I would say to everyone that this is an opportunity to kind of dig deep and think about, where am I able to step up or to make a contribution or focus my discipline and effort on behalf of the collective.
So that's March 31st.
Yes.
And then April 4th.
April 4th, we have Pluto and Jupiter coming together. And, it's interesting, as it is often the case with astrology, you can listen to different people and get slightly different interpretations. So I'll kind of try to provide a spectrum. Generally, so Pluto is our power. but it's the deep kind of power that we get. It's like rebirth, regeneration. It's the power we get after we address the really deep kind of soul woundings. So Pluto's an intense planet, and then we have Jupiter, which is opportunity, expansion, and like our higher selves. So, some people are characterizing this as a opportunity for some to manifest wealth or more resources into their life, because you have Pluto, which is power, and Jupiter, which is opportunity. So for some, this could create in the next 3 months the either the actualization um, or the beginning of understanding where is my new source of wealth going to come from. And wealth doesn't obviously mean just money. And the really powerful thing about this conjunction, and this is very rare, it's happening 3 times this year. So it's happening April 4th. It's going to happen again on June 29th, and then on November 12th. So this, and because they're 2 big planets coming together, we're going to feel that kind of energy is going to sort of be with us throughout the remainder of the year. And again, this week is going to be an intense week. So to everybody, I don't know when they're going to hear this, listening, just know that like often when we're feeling discomfort or intensity, those are opportunities for growth. And I think that there's going to be a little bit of that feeling of sort of inner tension, but to know that we're being led to a place of greater power if we can kind of have the awareness and move through the fear and the discomfort and focus that. I think that's how astrology can actually be really helpful, is to understand that things aren't happening to us, but we have an opportunity to help direct this energy we're feeling.
What comes to mind is also that we're given this opportunity to take this time to kind of go inwards and think about all these questions of opportunity, power, expansion. Who am I really? How can I contribute? How can I serve? It's like this year of becoming in a way, like who do I want to be going forward? I think I heard you talk about that as well. Like we are defining now who we want to be for the next 35 years in a way.
Yes, and so in that sense, it's good to view this as sort of not a sprint, but as sort of a long distance run. And we're really being given this combination on March 31st of Mars and Saturn is really about, I think, giving us the internal fortitude and discipline that we need, sort of a strong backbone to really be able to kind of steer, navigate the rest of the year. And I want to also offer some, relief or inspiration for people to know that I believe after this week and the following week, once we have the conjunction on April 4th, that things the rest of the year, I'm not going to say it's going to be a cakewalk, because there's still going to be intensity, but I don't think we're going to feel quite the intense internal intensity that we've been feeling, which, as we said several minutes ago, is kind of reflected in the COVID crisis.
Right. That's a good outlook. I like that. Obviously, still seeing the external circumstances, that will probably continue to go on. So there's still intensity from outside, but it helps to know that, at least from the stars, we're not getting extra pressure. So that's nice to know.
Yes.
What other kind of positive outlook could you share with people so they don't walk away from this conversation thinking, oh, this is going to be challenging?
Yeah, no. So the gift for all of us on December 21st, the third and final cycle, is Jupiter and Saturn are going to come together in the sign of of Capricorn. And this is actually in the sign of Aquarius. And so this is going to like officially kind of kick off what some people are saying or firmly cement us in the age of Aquarius. So, and this is a gift. So this is an opportunity for manifestation, because again, you have Jupiter opportunity and Saturn, which has been sort of about this this discipline and structure and our relationship to authority. And so now there's going to be an opportunity for all of us for the hard work we've been doing, not just this year, but for the 2.5 years that Saturn was in Capricorn. Now there's going to be some kind of, I don't want to make it seem like there's going to be a fairy and a wand and, you know, all of a sudden we all get like a gift in front of us. But for all of us, our life is going to feel a little bit easier and a little bit relief wherever Capricorn is in your chart, and there will be an opportunity to manifest something positive out of all we've been through.
And that's on December 21st.
Yes.
Okay. Still a bit of a stretch, but we'll get there.
Oh yeah, and we've got eclipses coming up. I mean, there's the other thing I'll share positive is from May 13th to June 25th, we have Venus going retrograde in the sign of Gemini. And so this is a lovely opportunity, especially for people, you know, we're all at home. This is very supportive of creative projects, of something, you know, Venus is what we value, what's close to us, what's important. It might be an opportunity for, you know, reconnecting with loved ones, or for, you know, potentially taking on that special creative project that you just haven't had the time to do. There'll be very supportive energy in that 5-week window for doing that. And then Venus will stay in Gemini until the end of July. But when it's retrograde, we feel that energy more. And so we're sort of given an extra boost of that energy.
Yeah, that's nice, because that's exactly who we're spending time with right now. Mm-hmm. So it helps to, pay attention to those loved ones very close to us.
Yes, and Gemini is the sign of details. So it's like wants us to be present and focused. And so you combine those two, and that's very much.
Yeah, nice. Please do share with people where they can find you, Laurel, especially your Facebook group, where I'm always keeping up to date with the latest astrology videos from you.
Yeah, I would love to have anyone who's interested come on over and join us. And it's a free Facebook group. It's called Unleash Your Power, Navigating Midlife with Astrology. And you can learn more about how to connect with me there.
And also mention your website.
Yes, because I know not everybody is on Facebook, and as much as I think it's a great group, LaurelO'SullivanCoaching.com, and I do have a free gift on there if you're interested in understanding your North Node, which is your life purpose. I have an e-guide on my website where you can learn about yours and your life purpose.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing this with my audience. And it was nice to connect with you again, Laurel.
Yeah, so nice connecting with you. Thank you for having me, Sara.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that, and it gives you also this sense of this belongs, like it does for me. That's what astrology does for me right now. I feel less alone, and I feel like, this was meant to be, and it doesn't make it less sad or less devastating, but it just reminds me that this was in the stars, and so it belongs. Again, you can check out Laurel's free Facebook group. She's posting regular free astrology updates, which are really good, so I highly recommend looking that up. I really hope you're keeping up the positive energy. We're entering the 3rd week of confinement over here in Switzerland. And even as an introvert, I do think I start to crave more connection. So thank God for the internet. Thank God for Zoom that allows us to keep connecting, and maybe also reach out to people that we usually wouldn't reach out to, and kind of step over our, especially as introverts, sometimes it feels like, really, should I really connect with them? Should I really reach out? But I think now is the time to step over our fear, or maybe it's not fear, maybe it's embarrassment. I don't know what it is, but now is the time to connect with people. On Friday, I'll share a regular episode again, a conversation with Mark Silver about paying from the heart, or also called the pay what you can model. Don't miss it. I think it really fits this kind of time we're in. We're all kind of being asked to reconsider our capitalistic models, and the pay what you can model that Mark Silver has been using in his business for a long time could be one of those options. Sunday, I have a special episode with Amy Carroll, a communication coach whom I invited to talk about her framework that she calls Partner. It's all about communicating with your partner. And since we're all spending more time with our partners right now, I thought that might be helpful. I think it's very interesting to be spending so much time with our partners. Usually, we're probably spending more time away than we are spending with them. I know for me, my husband works at a corporate job, so we usually see each other 20 minutes in the morning and then for dinner. And since I'm going to bed early and he's going to bed late, we have like one evening per week where we watch my favorite show together. But other than that, also being introverts, pretty much both of us, he likes to do his activities and I do mine. So we're actually spending quite a bit of time separately. And now, well, there's much more time being spent together. So that does bring up, sometimes tensions, or especially because also their kids are both home. And it's an interesting time to, I think, pay attention to our communication and really see where we're being triggered, where we're being reactive, and where we can probably, pull ourselves back, open our hearts, and realize that probably for all of us right now, there's more fear than there is usually. And if we're in a fear state, we're always or more likely to react, and not always in a nice way, than if we're all relaxed and everything is great and happy. So I look forward to talking to Amy Carroll and her framework called Partner. So that will air on Sunday. Until then, be well, take care of yourself, sleep enough. I just started to kind of change my morning alarm a bit for 45 minutes later. I'm like, why am I still forcing myself? I actually need the sleep right now. And thanks to Andrina, who reminded me to say, well, right now is a good time to actually give yourself permission to sleep a bit longer, because it really helps your immune system. So sleep enough, meditate. If you can still go outside, go outside. And I speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.